What is up, guys? What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. It has been a little bit since I put out a video. I'm not starting off this year very well, but I am back with another video. Very quick, very simple, very easy one. It is basically the 10 Lightroom shortcuts that I use on a very regular basis. I just want to share those with you guys, get them out there for you to use if you don't already use them. And so yeah, that is really all there is to it. One other note I will say, because I'm actually filming this after I filmed the actual video on the computer, there's going to be some like little black mark up here in the corner. Just ignore that. It turns out that the lens hood was shifted a little bit and I didn't realize it till after I was looking at the footage. Anyway, try to ignore it as best as you can. I had to edit this whole video staring at it, so it drove me crazy, but enough of that. Let's go ahead and jump on into the video and show you my shortcuts. Let's go. All right, guys, so here we go. Let's go ahead and jump on into these shortcuts. So the first one I want to show you today is the full screen mode shortcut, and you access it by hitting F on your keyboard. So let's go ahead and do that. And yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, not very complicated. It just takes whatever image that you're working on and it makes it full screen. Obviously useful for being able to see your image larger, but it's also nice because it removes a lot of the distractions from your screen, allows you to focus in a little bit more on your image in particular and focus in on the edit, maybe look for things in the image that might be distracting that you want to remove, whatever it may be. Just a really useful tool for allowing you to really focus in on your edit and your image and whatever it is that you're doing in Lightroom. And then to get out of it, very simple, just hit F again, you'll return back to your editing mode. But yeah, first shortcut, very simple, it's just full screen mode. Again, you access it by hitting F on your keyboard. So yeah, that's shortcut number one. All right, guys, so shortcut number two, it's very similar to the first shortcut. It's actually called the lights out mode in Lightroom, and you access it by going ahead and hitting the L button on your keyboard. There's actually two levels to this one. The first level is the one you see here, where it basically takes everything except for the image that you're working on and it just dims it. If you hit L a second time, it will completely dim everything to black except for your image. Again, really useful for removing distractions, but unlike the full screen mode, it doesn't take it and blow it up to the full size of your monitor. It just leaves it the same size that it was in your editing window. I think this can be useful for situations where you just want to get an idea of what your image is going to look like at a smaller scale, on a smaller screen perhaps. I don't use this one as much as full screen, but it is out there. It is an option for you to use, and it is pretty useful, and it's one I do occasionally use. So yeah, go ahead and put that to use if you want to. In order to get back out of it and get back into editing, you just hit L a third time and you'll get back into your normal editing window. But yeah, that is shortcut number two. It's the lights out mode and you access it with the L button. Okay, so shortcut number three is one I use pretty much non-stop, and it's very similar to the first two in terms of it's meant to reduce distractions on your screen, give you a little bit more of a area to work with on your photo editing. And it is the tab button. And essentially what it does is it just takes your toolbars on either side of your image and it basically collapses them off to the side of the screen so you can't see them anymore, just giving you a little bit more real estate in order to do your edits. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's hit tab, and you can see, just like I described, it takes your toolbars, hides them, gives you a little bit more room to focus in on doing your edit, especially for landscape shots. It'll actually make your image a little bit bigger. And again, it just removes distractions from the screen. If you hit tab one more time, it'll bring them back. And there's actually another level to this one as well. If you go ahead and you hit Shift and Tab, it'll actually remove all of your toolbars. So left, right, top, bottom, gets rid of all of them, collapses them all off the screen. And again, gives you a much bigger image to work with for your edits, removes distractions, super useful. I use it all the freaking time. And again, if you want to bring all of those toolbars back, Shift and Tab, brings them all back right away again. And then if you're ever in, like say, one mode like this one, and you want to bring back, say, just the right-hand toolbar in order to adjust your sliders, you can always just go over here and hover, and it'll bring it back temporarily. Or you can go over here, just click the arrow, and it'll bring it back permanently, which is really useful for portrait-oriented shots, because this way your image stays the same size, but you have the toolbar permanently there to adjust your sliders. But yeah, again, if you just hit Shift and Tab one more time and then hit it again, it'll cycle through all those different options and bring them back. But yeah, super useful tool, super useful shortcut, use it all the freaking time. So yeah, go ahead and put it to use yourself. It's Tab and then Shift and Tab. All right, guys, shortcut number four. This one is going to be in regards to your graduated filters, your radio filters. So let's go ahead and jump on over to an image to show you an example. So we'll go over to this guy right here. So this one's actually got a couple graduated filters on it. So let's go ahead and open up that tool, and then you'll see both of them right there kind of hidden away. Let's go ahead and select one of them. get that guy active. Okay, cool. So now we've got this guy active. You can see we've got these 3 bars right here, which basically show you where the beginning of your gradient is and where it goes completely solid to where it goes completely to 0. And so those tools are useful when you're first laying out your gradient, trying to figure out where you want it placed. However, when you're starting to do more of the editing process and really start to fine tune it, I personally like to have these lines hidden and just be able to edit the graduated filter or the radio filter or whatever without these tool overlays. Super easy way to get rid of them is to hit H. And the great thing about it is it gets rid of them, but you can still edit the gradient. So for example, if we go over here and we adjust the exposure, you can see we're still affecting that graduated filter. It's just now that the tool overlays are hidden. And so yeah, I find that to be super helpful. I think it's super useful. And again, if you hit H, it'll bring them back. I think it's really great. Hopefully you'll find it useful. There are a couple other options with this tool. If you go up here to the tools menu and come down here to tool overlay, you can see there's a couple different options. There's auto show, always show, show selected, never show. I've got it set up to alternate between always show and never show, but you can get it to alternate between different combinations of these 4. So yeah, just play around with that, find a combination that works well for you. And yeah, another tool to put to use. All right guys, shortcut number, what are we on? Number 5. This one again, very simple, very straightforward. It is simply the shortcut to go into the crop mode. You do this by hitting the R button on your keyboard. And there you go, you're in the crop mode. Not much to it, but if you're like me and you do a lot of photo editing for Instagram, you're probably doing a lot of cropping to 1:1 or 4:5 in order to conform to IG's crop factor. So having an easy way to get into the crop mode, I think is useful. I use it pretty regularly. If you didn't know about it, now you do. That's number 5. Okay, so shortcut number 6 is actually very related to number 5. Matter of fact, you access it while you're in crop mode, and it's the ability or the shortcut to cycle through the different crop overlays within the crop mode. Let me show you what I mean. So when you're in the actual crop mode, you have different overlays that you can actually use to compose your image, I guess, or to compose your crop, however you want to word that. So right here we have the basic rule of thirds, but there are others that you can use. And if you hit the O button, you can actually cycle through a bunch of different overlays for the crop mode. And you can see there's quite a few here. And then we come back to the original, and this is super useful. I didn't know about this for probably the first 6 months I was using Lightroom. I didn't realize there was anything other than the standard rule of thirds. And then when I learned it, it was actually super useful because there are some of these I do use on a pretty regular basis. Not this one so much, not that one so much. This one, occasionally I will use the golden ratio. This one I do use on occasion. And then I also use this one pretty often, especially for anything where I'm trying to line up a vertical. This one I find to be very useful. And then again, you get back to your original. Now there is one other kind of level to this, I guess you could call it. So if you've noticed when I was cycling through, some of these aren't necessarily symmetric like this one. So if you hit Shift and hold down Shift and then press O, you can actually flip the orientation of some of these non-symmetric crop overlays. So this one, for example, you can switch back and forth. If we go over to the golden ratio, again, hold down Shift and press O, you can cycle through different orientations of the golden ratio overlaid on top of your image. Super useful, love it. Again, there's a couple more, like this one, hit Shift, hold Shift, hit O, flips it again, and then we come back to our original. So again, that is number 6, very related to the crop mode, but it's basically just a quick way of cycling through your different crop overlays for the crop mode. Okay, shortcut number 7. This one is again related to crop mode. Basically, it's just a really quick way of taking your crop orientation from landscape to portrait or from portrait back to landscape. So for example, right here, we've got this one. It's obviously a landscape photo. Let's say I want to crop it to, let's say 4:5. We'll do that. Okay, very cool. But now let's say I want it to be 4:5 vertical. An easy way of doing that, just hit the X button on your keyboard and it'll flip the orientation of that crop, because otherwise you can come up here and grab one of these corners and drag it around. Honestly, that's kind of a pain in the ass. This is a nice easy way of flipping that orientation. And so yeah, that is going to be the 7th shortcut, and that is the X key on the keyboard in order to flip your orientations. Okay, shortcut number 8. I think that's the right number of fingers. This one is actually very simple as well. It's a really cool way for kind of finding out where in your image your highlights and your shadows and whatnot are clipping, and it's actually called the clipping tool, so it's pretty aptly named. Let's go ahead and head over to another image. We're gonna go to this third one I've got loaded up right here, and This one you access by hitting the J button on your keyboard, and once I do that, you can see we get these red and these blue overlays on top of where our image is either clipping in the highlights or clipping in the shadows. So the red overlay is where things are clipping in the highlights, seems pretty obvious, right? And then the blue is obviously where it's clipping in the shadows. Now for this particular image, I actually don't mind that it's clipping in those locations. I think it works totally fine. I don't really care. There's no information there that I really want to pull back. But for some images, it is kind of useful to know. And you can turn that on, and then as you're adjusting your edit, adjusting your highlights, adjusting your exposure, your shadows, your blacks, you can see if you start to clip in either the highlights or the shadows. So if you're really concerned about that on an image, hit J, turn on that clipping overlay, and it'll show you immediately when you start to clip in those highlights or the shadows. Pretty useful tool. I use it pretty frequently, and yeah, so now that's another one you know about. If you didn't know about it before, now you do. And so yeah, that was number 8. Let's move on to number 9. Okay, number 9. Now this is one I think that probably some people don't know about. Now, I would imagine most people probably learn really quickly the very first shortcut for learning how to look at your original image compared to your current state of the edit, which is not the shortcut, by the way. I think most of us already know this one. But if you hit the backslash key, you can actually, cycle between your previous edit or the beginning photo and then your current edit, and you can go back and forth nice and quickly. Very useful. Definitely use that one the most. And then I think most of us also know about hitting Y to see a before and the after side by side. I think most of us probably already know about this view as well, but there is one more I want to show you, and it's one that I actually happen to like. And you access it once you're in the side-by-side compare by hitting Y. Go ahead and hold shift and then hit Y again. And then it'll actually take your single image and it'll split it down the middle, and rather doing a side-by-side comparison, it'll basically do a split view comparison. I actually happen to like it, not just because this image happens to be symmetric down the vertical. I use it all the time, portraits, landscape shots, whatever. I think it's a pretty useful way of kind of seeing what your before and your after edit looks like. I happen to like it, and I think it's one that maybe you guys don't know about. It's one that I discovered not too long ago, so yeah, it's definitely one I've been putting to use recently. Hopefully it'll be something that you like and enjoy and will put to use yourself, and if not, whatever, no harm, no foul, right? Okay, that brings us to our 10th and final shortcut. Now this one is very straightforward as well. Now this is one I use all the time, primarily because I do a lot of portraits, and my workflow with portraits is to do the basic toning and editing and contrast and colors and whatnot in Lightroom, and then I send it off into Photoshop. I do all my retouching, my frequency separation, sharpening, and all that good stuff, and the final toning in Photoshop before I bring it back to Lightroom. So a nice, quick, easy way for getting your photo from Lightroom into Photoshop without having to go through the menu system, even though, no, that doesn't take that long, but hey, every second counts. And so that shortcut is simply Command and E or Control E on Windows. And so for this image in particular, I just hit that little combo, and then now you'll see in just a moment, this image will get loaded up into Photoshop and be ready for us to edit. So yeah, that is shortcut number 10. It's one I use pretty much all the time because I do a ton of portrait editing. And and if you're somebody, maybe you do landscapes and you do part of your toning and your editing in Photoshop as well, well, this is awkward. So Photoshop didn't load up on the screen like normal. It loaded up all halfway off and being shy. We'll go ahead and pull that back, see what happens here. See, Command 0. There it is. Okay, that was awkward. That didn't work out. Bugs and glitches, but I'm not refilming this because screw it. It's getting late. I want to go to bed. Anyway, so yeah, here it is. It loaded up. It just did some weird stuff. It had it halfway off the screen. We drug it, that's not a word. Drug it back, that's probably not a word either. We brought it back on our main screen, and whatever, here it is in Photoshop. We can do whatever we want with it. And then if you don't know, just go up here, hit File, go down to Save, and then it will save a TIFF version of this edited photo in Photoshop back into Lightroom, recatalog it with the rest of your images in Lightroom, and then you can go on about your merry editing day. And so that is going to end this video right here. All right guys, so that is it. Those are my 10 Lightroom shortcuts that I wanted to share with you. Not all of them are super crazy or unique or rare or whatever, but those are the ones that I use on a pretty regular basis, and I just wanted to share them with you. So whether you're new to Lightroom or maybe you've been around using it for a while, hopefully there's one or two in that bunch that you didn't know about and that you can go ahead and put to use for yourself. And so yeah, hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you got some good information out of this video. And if you did, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It would mean a lot. If you want to see more videos from me, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then if you've got your own Lightroom shortcuts that I didn't cover in this video, something you want to share with others, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below. Or if you've got any general questions or whatever, please, by all means, comments down below as well. And that is it, guys. So until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep shooting. I will catch you in the next one. Later.